We good? All right, welcome everyone tonight. Appreciate all of our department heads, counselors, and members of the public joining us. I'll call to order the special meeting of the Sturgis City Council tonight, November 12th. Please join me in, I guess we're going to approve the agenda, sorry. We've got a pretty quick agenda tonight. Probably not. Is there anyone that would be willing to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We've got a first by Tony, second by Nick to approve the agenda with no changes. All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Please join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like a clear view. All right, our first agenda item, we go straight into reports. This is the first time in recent history that we've had public discussion about our budgets as we're developing this. There are some attachments on the agenda in iCompass linked off of the city's webpage. Two of those things are our 2023 final spends for all of our budgets and 2024 year to date, which would be the end of October. I would like to really point out that we've asked our department heads to control spending in 2024, and they've really done a good job. So I think that'll resonate through all of our discussions. The first budget that we're going to discuss will be administrative services, and I guess how I would see this happening, and I hope council concurs that we go one budget at a time. We have some discussion on it. We open the floor for hopefully meaningful, short public discussion, and we move on because we'd like to get through this effectively without getting us all too late in the evening. So anyway, the first one is administrative services, or HR. The budget that we're working off of was the preliminary budget that staff had been working on, that department heads had submitted, where they were requested to do a 10% cut. And not that that means exactly where we're at, but that's what we're going to build off of and have discussion on tonight. The hard piece about what was presented with administrative services, and I think this resonated with our Legal and Finance Committee when we discussed it last Wednesday, was an organization the size of the city of Sturgis. We have a lot of risk not having someone managing our HR end, that making sure that we have our enrollments completed, our onboarding, our outboarding, all of those pieces done, and if there is ever an issue, somebody that's making sure that we're not getting into a lawsuit if at all possible. So as we work forward with this, it was Legal and Finance's desire to fund a position, if at all possible, and to mirror that off of our local county government, Meade County's HR position with similar size, similar job duties, and those sorts of things. So there weren't many changes in that budget, except for somewhere in the low 80,000s for a HR manager. And so the administrative services budget had a total of just under $90,000 if we could make this go. And again, I'll preface this. We're going through this process pretty condensed. We're going to try and get through all the budgets and make sure that we understand funding, but we do not have our revenues balanced yet. We're working with a third-party CPA that we're sure hoping has all of that work done so that we can lead into our first reading and that we can fund everything that we hope to in our community. But that's where we're at. So with that, is there any public discussion or council discussion on the administrative services or human resources position?
I would like to just add commentary to you speaking to the fact that it's Legal and Finance's desire to fund an HR position. A lot of that also came from me, from my conversations with staff as well, and understanding the desire to have that position filled, having somebody to go to, and feeling like you have that support. So that would be why, one of the main reasons why I would agree that we do need to, if possible, find that role and fill it.
Outstanding. I would like to also point out that the 2023 spend in that budget line item was $131,000. So if we're headed this direction, that's a roughly a 30% cut in that budget. So, and hopefully maintaining some of those services, although the person that was in that job did a little bit more than just HR, but nonetheless. Any other comments?
Kevin, didn't we put out wasn't there an ad out for that? Did we do that for the HR?
We have not done that, not as of yet. I mean, I guess that's a possibility that, if we go forward and it's funded into the future, again, what we're building off of right now did not fund that, but I think there's consensus to actually fund that position. And once we're sure that we can fund it, I don't see any reason why the council couldn't make the decision to try and fill that as quickly as possible.
And is that open for someone that already works for the city to apply?
Certainly. Qualified applicants from anywhere would be open. We would embrace internal, external. Answer your question, Jim?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Okay, well, we're going to proceed with our second budget of the night, which is attorney. Again, we don't currently have an attorney. The desire is twofold. This is, again, came out of legal and finance discussion, that we're going to outsource our legal work, but we are going to also hire a contractor, or would like to get approval to hire a contractor to do our heavy lift of ordinance adjustments. If you recall back, geez, how many meetings it's been? Maybe 6 meetings ago? Maybe more, actually. I think it was the end of July, that our legal department brought forward 600-700 pages of ordinances that needed to be reviewed for adjusting the term city manager out and putting city administrator or mayor council. We had our policy manual that spells out how we do business outside of ordinances and state laws, that also needs a heavy brush. And there was a number that we had for just the ordinances that was $15,000 to have that work done by a contractor that had just recently completed the spearfish ordinances. And we felt that at having the contract rate of a outside legal, we would probably be more efficient to use somebody that's been doing that a lot, just get review and not pay maybe the higher rate that we had on that. That would adjust this legal budget as an increase, but it would be far below our $260,000 2024 budget for all legal, and we were somewhere in the neighborhood of half that. Again, we're having the discussion. We'll be putting all of these numbers together, and when we have first reading, we'll be able to see exactly where we're at. I probably should have said it earlier. In every budget, we've got some personnel costs, obviously. Those personnel costs may be affected by the union contract, and certainly will be affected by the union contract that's going to come before council on the Monday, November 18th meeting. So each one of these will have additional adjustments, and we're very close to finalizing our insurance rates for 2025. So in this condensed process, some of the personnel expenses are going to see some adjustment, but we expect to see roughly a reduction in legal services by close to 50%. So, go ahead.
I think I've got calls from people that wanted to know if we don't have an attorney sitting here as we have for some time, who have we asked who is capable of doing that? So we have sent out requests for bids to let you know that what we've done. I know everybody for the most part, everybody in Sturgis and Spearfish, the Black Hills, northern Black Hills. We had one request from Pier. People interested in getting that request for bid.
Yes, at our
More as an information for the crowd.
definitely at our November 4th meeting, we approved going out with an RFP, request for proposals for legal services, and I don't know if we've had any returned yet, but we expected that to be, I think 30 days was our piece. So sometime in early December, we hope to be talking about and ultimately making a decision on outside legal. Is there any input on attorney from the rest of council? How about from the public? All right, thank you. Let's keep this going easy like this. Auditorium. Thanks, Rod. So Rod, again, we talked in Legal and Finance a week ago on Wednesday, covered most of these items. Can you kind of outline where some of the spends have been and what some of the adjustments that you've done within your budget?
There you go. I got Judd Krauser, maintenance superintendent, as well, just in case there's any maintenance questions he can answer as well. So, as far as the auditorium, a lot of the expenditures down there, we do have the security monitor system, just a video surveillance system for monitoring activities and things like that, and also just our repairs and maintenance items. Fire alarm inspections, pest control. Well, actually, pest control, I apologize, we're going to move that to the buildings budget. The electrical and miscellaneous repairs and custodial supplies for cleaning chemicals and stuff like that, then utilities. So, I don't know if Judd has anything to expound on that for down there.
All looks pretty good with what we went over with.
Then for a total budget of $22,211, which is usually is not a big number for the services that we provide down there with all the youth activities and all that, the sports and wedding receptions and family reunions and all kinds of stuff that goes on down there. So
Heavily used facility and got a lot of history in our community as well.
Yeah, it does. Yep. So
Of note, we've got some issues with the elevator there. Obviously, we're not going to be able to adjust that in 2025, but we got to keep our eye on the ball of keeping that together because a lot of the tables and chairs
are in the basement.
Items used are in the basement there, and so.
Yep. And one more thing, sorry, went on that too. Maybe when looking at stripping and waxing the floor as well, strip that completely down. That has not been done yet. Strip it to the bare wood, then resand it and restripe and everything. That's a future project too that we got to look at too, that we kind of discuss as well. So.
Okay, well.
Yep.
Rod, I know that these smaller budgets, it's hard to make some of the cuts. I appreciate you doing the best you can to make adjustments. A lot of things are set in there, like utilities and whatnot. I mean, what do we do?
Yeah,
We
that's the
just-
thing. Unless we close the doors, we don't want to do that, obviously. So
exactly.
it's a very busy facility. It's used Monday through Sunday. So it's with all the youth sports and everything that goes on down there. So it's a busy facility.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions from council? Is everybody familiar with our auditorium? Oh, outstanding. Any questions from the public? Yes, Francie? So from the audience, we had a question of how much revenue do we take in from the activities in the auditorium?
So usually with the around about 15, 20,000, that includes the community center as well. I guess we don't really have it itemized with, with that. Probably, with all the because all the programs go into recreation fees and all that stuff as well. So then plus all the activities go down there kind of combined with the community center rentals. So it's, maybe a couple $1,000s, I suppose, with probably from the Armory, from through wedding receptions and other events, like that.
But some of the use is buried in, essentially into our
right, it's
recreation.
Recreation, right. Because
Right.
we use, we have basketball games down there are buried into recreation through our rec programs. Our youth basketball, youth volleyball games, stuff like that, and our co-ed volleyball, things like that. So, yeah, it's kind of buried in our recreation fees.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Francie? Thank you. Is there any additional questions? All right, so we're going to proceed to buildings. And this is a new budget for 2024. It was part of the community center previously. And I'll just make a default statement. If anybody's reviewing any of the burn rate reports, the 2024 report actually had a little bit of an error where there was some wages that should have went to the buildings budget that were taken out of the community center budget. So not a big deal, but it's just an adjustment that's going to need to be made in the record keeping end.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Again, since it is a new budget, we're pushing through, but we do see in this case where compared to our 24 budget, we do have some increased pieces, but some of that is out of our control about repairs and requirements of the job. I mean, I understand, Judd, that you can either be a champion or a chump based on what we have to fix for the year and what we're planning for. So, would you be willing to cover a little bit of where we're spending our money? Or where you're proposing we spend our money in 2025?
Well, I think all the buildings, obviously the roofs need repairs, and we looked at all those already. And there's unforeseen things like the boilers that go out, maintenance on the pool pumps, all the chemicals, and just all the maintenance. The windows at the Armory could be replaced. That would help on the electrical and the furnace budget, because they're single pane. We talked about that, so.
We did talk about that. We talked about maybe being creative on,
I can be creative to get through for a while.
yeah, maybe we can, a few of those we could block or maybe insulate temporarily.
Yep.
Pointing out that, one of the biggest increases in this budget is actually because of utilities. So we have some utilities that ended up migrating to the buildings budget that were previously in the community center budget for. Can you kind of define which buildings those are?
So the City Hall, then the library is our other utilities. And actually the utilities, we still have community center utilities separate from the buildings.
Okay.
Yep.
So these utilities are only for
Yep.
City Hall and the library.
City Hall library.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Um,
Then also a big chunk of that too is our Rasmussen's for the 16,000 Rasmussen's for the PM agreement. They do all the buildings, so the preventive maintenance.
HVAC system.
Yep, HVAC. Yep, all the stuff. Yep, there.
Okay. Any questions from council to Judd or or Rod?
Judd, the roof at the community center has been hail damaged and not repaired, is that correct?
Yep.
What would you suggest there?
Actually, we just did a walk around on it a couple weeks ago, and we had low roofing up there and the insurance guy, so we're still waiting to hear back from them. And also on City Hall here too has damage.
Is that creating problems inside?
Yeah, we have quite a few leaks. I'm planning on getting up there and patching what I can this week to get by, but patch 10 and 20 more pop up, unfortunately.
We heard from our planning and permitting guy at department head this morning that everybody's doing roofs this week, so be a good week to get it done, I guess,
Yeah.
with the high temperatures.
Everybody but us.
That's
yeah.
what I got planned for tomorrow for the rest of the week.
Jim, that's a good question. I'll point out that we received an insurance check on that. Was that in 22 or 23? Yep, right, and that ended up landing in the general fund, so we don't necessarily have that held separate. So we're gonna have to work that into our budget as well, going forward. But, it's one of those costs of owning property is maintaining the property. Possibly when we get our report back, maybe there's some recoverable depreciation that we can get from the insurance company as well. Any additional questions from the council? How about from the public? All right. Well, thank you, guys. What's our next piece here is the city administrator. And you can go ahead and just stay seated because I think you actually come up.
Yep.
We're just going by the list of the
worries.
budget. The city administrator was next on our list as this budget template was developed by some of the previous staff. It had a different wage than what council chose to go forward with, seeking candidates for that position. I think, Rick, that went out just today, and it's open for 30 days, our position of city administrator. So there will be an adjustment to that. I believe that the number that was used before was $173,000 plus benefits. And so the council, help me remember, it was 130 to 145, I think, was what was advertised for. And so we'll be making adjustments to that budget when it comes forward, and hope that we get some good applicants over the next month here and can fill that. Beyond that, most items carried straight across. There was not a big changes in copier leases and expenses or anything like that. So, any questions about city administrator from the public? Thank you. All right, community center. Again, this was a budget that was asked to have 10% cuts made, and in some cases that's possible, and in some cases it's not possible. So, Rod, can you talk about what you managed to do here and what the cause and effect is to your operations there?
Sure can. So with some cuts, with some personnel cuts, we with lifeguards, we cut down to one lifeguard Monday through Friday during the school year, September through May. We feel that one lifeguard could handle the swim numbers during the time frame, because we average maybe 10 to 15 swimmers during that time frame. Maybe each hour or something like that, there's maybe at the most 15 swimmers. So we feel one lifeguard can handle that. So that'd be one cut. A cut there, be some savings there. So we'll be with one lifeguard during the week, Monday through Friday, September through May. Then also a front desk cut. We cut like 16 hours a week to that, where myself or Judy will be working more front desk hours, just taking that cuts away from some of the front desk staff.
Do any of these adjustments cause any reduction in staff? I mean, I'm not advocating for that. I'm
No,
just asking what
no,
the...
it's not. No, it's not. We're not firing any staff. We got the same number of staff. They just might maybe get a few less hours. So, but we're not firing anybody. Nope, no reduction in staff. Everybody will stay on. So,
And you very often are in a hiring mode anyway.
we are, especially lifeguards. We go through lifeguards like crazy. So, we hire one, they quit about a month later. So we're constantly going for There's times we only have one lifeguard anyways because we don't have enough lifeguards. So it happens. So or one don't show. So we feel confident we can handle with the one lifeguard.
Yeah, so you're proposing during the week when you're seeing slower
numbers. Yep.
slower
Yep.
numbers.
Yep.
You could run with one lifeguard.
We could run. Yeah, I feel real comfortable just doing it with one
When
lifeguard.
they need to take a break,
Yep, we'll just close the pool down.
we'll
or
close
make
the
it
pool
work.
for a
Yep.
15 minutes.
Yep, 15-minute break. Yep. Yeah, I feel comfortable with that, so we can handle that. Yep. And during the summer, we'll go back to 2 because we're pretty busy during the summer. But so yeah. But and if there's like special occasion, we can schedule an extra lifeguard. But that's not happen very often. If we have like a special event, we'll just schedule accordingly.
Christmas break,
Yeah,
holiday
Christmas
breaks,
break. Yeah, right. Break stuff
spring
like
break
that.
sort of thing.
Yep. Things like that. We could schedule another lifeguard, but that'll be a good cost savings on the budget. So just cutting the staff there for front desk and the lifeguards.
Okay.
Also, another cut that since we got Judd on now, we had a PM agreement with Nova Fitness for our weight equipment. We cut that out, so Judd will be handling all the PM stuff. He feels pretty comfortable with that, and he does a pretty good job with all that. So we've cut that out, so that's be a savings as well with Judd doing that. Then also, I think we discussed with legal and finance the air handling balancing, the 10 grand, cutting that out. I think we're pretty balanced right now. I think we're having not any issues. I think everything, we were up under roof. We kind of noticed there was no pilling, so I think our air handler is good. So we're going to cut that out as well, the 10 grand.
Wasn't that connected as well to some equipment replacement and the warranty period?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Right.
Yep, some new equipment
So you
and all
got
that stuff.
balanced at the end
We're
of the
bal-
warranty
yep,
period.
Yep,
and
yep, we're all balanced right now. Not saying it can't go out of balance, but as of right now, it's balanced. So.
Is that the only thing that's balanced in our city right now?
Yep, pretty much.
Let's balance the budget the same way, right?
Yep, that's right. Yep. Far as also repairs and maintenance, and there's a big line, for Rasmussen's for 28 grand in there. We kept that the same. It never fails. Seems like we have there's something, think we're ahead, we're 2 steps back. So some things, so we want to keep that 28 grand in for Rasmussen's because they'll do PM checks and they'll find something that needs to be fixed. And they're kind of expensive items. We've done pool boilers for $6,000, pool pack issue right now for, so there's about another $6,000. So there's always something, so that never fails. It goes down. So it's a facility. It's open 24/7. Everything runs 24/7. So HVAC or pool boiler or hot tub or something seems like pumps, something goes out of whack. So we use that 28 grand. So it's nice to have that just for spending. So just so you know, that's a pretty big item, but it's needed and we go through it.
Yeah, definitely. I think another good piece of what our team's been able to do, we got a door opener, assisted door opener that's been acting up, and I think Judd came up with a way to get that repaired for a couple $1,000s less than what we had anticipated.
Yep. Thank you, Kevin, for
Good move on that. What about the rest of the items? Supplies. It looks like we've kind of dropped some supplies, but increased some.
Yeah, we did. The pool chemicals, we go through pool chemicals quite a bit now. Seems like more than we used to, seems like, for some reason. And they're kind of getting more expensive, so we just had to up that because we've kind of been going over budget, just keep things going. So we wanted to increase that because of the amount of chemicals we've been using and plus the price that gone up. So, we go through, I think, 2 acid magics a week, Judd, and 2 chlorine.
2 acid magics, total of 4 acid magic barrels a month and 2 chlorine barrels. So it's pretty spendy, but and the more people in the pool, then it eats the chemicals up more. So I got to dose it a little more, and it's just kind of something that's out of our control on that.
Then like the chlorine barrels, they're $150 per drum. Then like the acid barrels, they're $345 per drum, so they're not cheap. So when we go through them, so yeah. Then the AccuTab buckets or the chlorine buckets are $369 a bucket. So, yep. So things are pretty expensive. So, but yeah, we go. Yep.
So then we also have a kind of a list of items that we're going to need to work in, and obviously the roof is one item that we're talking about. Fire alarm panel, card access system that's
Outdated.
outdated and getting obsolete.
Yep.
Our video security system,
Yep, that's outdated.
and you know, some gym windows, and obviously the roof. Hopefully there's been some discussion on the security camera system and being able to maybe tie some of those together and get some economy to scale and and whatnot. So, you know, those are obviously not part of 2025's budget, but hopefully when we get to where we absolutely have to do it, we have a cost-effective solution that we can deploy
Correct.
more widely throughout the city's facilities.
Yep, and another thing that we added too was the credit card fees. That's something that we didn't have last, 6,000, but we'll offset that cost because we'll charge the credit card fees starting next year on memberships and all of our POS stuff that we sell at the center. If they use a credit card, we'll just charge that back to the.
Right, well,
Matrix,
that's a good point about those processing fees that a lot, I mean, we're a society that's changed more heavily to the use of plastic, but it costs governments, you know, substantially. I think we're going to have, Ann, some discussion on that here later about maybe trying to include that so we don't actually even see that. It just potentially comes up as a piece through the card processor, but
that'd be great.
we don't see it and have to necessarily touch that and send the money back out, maybe saving some administrative side.
Great.
Well, with everything that you've got here and the proposed budget you brought forward, your 24 budget was at 590,000. This one is 545, which that to me seems pretty reasonable with today's costs ever increasing. I think you've worked very hard on this, and I hope we're able to hold these pieces.
As long as we have no things go wrong, I guess, you know, boiler go out or something like that, you know, we should be good. But, you know, it's.
Well, hopefully we're able to build some cash reserves through this process so that when we get outside of our anticipated budget, we're able to adequately react.
Yep, that's great.
And so I appreciate you,
Of course.
you know, working hard on this. Is there any questions out of the council anymore? Anybody in the public got something they would like to have answered or add? Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Custodial, I guess, is you as well, isn't it?
That's right.
Our custodians don't just work at the community center, they work here at City Hall,
Library.
Library.
And Public Works.
Public Works. Do they do the armory as well?
In the armory. Yep. in
Yeah,
the
so,
armory. So, yep.
So they do a pretty widespread amount of work for the community here. How did you, I mean, our 24 budget was 241,000. You've got one that's a 189,000. What did you do in order to make that happen? Hopefully, we're maintaining our levels of service.
Yeah, we are down to 3 custodians. We typically have 4, so we are not hiring the 4th custodian back. So right now we're just working with the 3 custodians, which we've been working with for the past year now, I suppose. I think they've been doing a good job. You know, obviously they work pretty hard, but I think we can get by with another year or two until we get enough funds. Hopefully, maybe get that 4th custodian. But you know, I talked to Judd and the staff. I think we can get through another year or so if we had to with the 3 custodians.
So that team's been working. 3 people has been covering all of those areas.
All those areas. Yep, they have been. Yep, and they've been doing a really good job. I haven't heard any complaints, so I think everything's been really clean. So I'm proud of them. They're doing really well. Judd does an awesome job, you know, supervising them as well. So it's a good team.
Good. So primarily that's where the savings is, I guess. You know, we are seeing some increased costs for supplies, but that goes with what we're dealing with today.
Right. Yep.
got to have toilet paper.
Right. Yep.
All right, is there any questions out of council about what Rod's brought forward on the custodians, or Rod and Judd? How about from the public? Outstanding. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Are we getting done with you? Yes, we are.
You got me one more time for recreation. Sorry.
Yes, we do. Information technology. Information technology is a budget that was partially staffed by our administrative assistant. We've been working through a subcontractor on that now. Legal and Finance discussed how we could move forward, and given the current environment, we decided that we were going to try and stay the course and hold the line on some of this with the contractor while doing some additional things. One thing that I guess myself, with the help of the rest of the administrative team, was, we need to do an audit on our Blue Peak billings. We have a lot going on with them, and, we're hoping to see some cost savings, and of course that spreads out in a few different budgets. And, tie that IT in together a little bit with the security pieces that we mentioned in the past budget about the community center, and try and make sure that we are covering all of our IT needs and staying within our budget. This current budget at $53,885 is actually only slightly less than the previous year, but because it's primarily a contractor, it's pretty hard for us to make any cuts in that budget. We're hoping to see the efficiency through trying to streamline the utility end of it. I mean, obviously we can't use less electricity, but maybe we can manage our bandwidth, have some adjustments on how new computers work. I do know that with the contractor, we are working a little more diligently. There are some softwares, the Windows 10 operating system sees end of life towards the end of the 2025 year. And, any computer connected to the internet definitely needs to see security updates in order to protect every piece. So I think we are going to be making some adjustments as we go, but I think there is time for us to make those adjustments in a calculated way. And that's an important point for us to remember is council can revisit this budget in the 25 year if our revenues increase, if we see some need in other places. So we need to keep that in mind as we go. Is there any questions from council on the IT budget? How about questions or concerns from the public? Yes, Francie.
Okay, at the last legislative session, did not they pass some legislation that allowed for municipalities to protect their computer systems from cyber hacking, and did we use it?
The question was, at the last legislative session, there was some cybersecurity monies brought forward. If I'm recalling correctly, we actually did have some cybersecurity assessments done, and that's what all governments are allowed to use. The findings of that I myself did not see, but we have enough reach and enough auditing that goes on through our police department, through the FBI crime CJIS security policy, that we get audited pretty often on that. In addition to what we have, and I believe it's Dakota State University that does a lot of that cybersecurity monitoring for us. So I don't have every answer on that, Francie, but we have taken on that. I remember voting on that exact item about a year ago. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Insurance is a budget that we don't have a lot of control with. It includes our workers' compensation insurance, liability insurances and our some pieces of our health insurance. I guess I don't see any health insurance listed in this, so it's strictly our liability. We did not talk about this heavily because there was not a lot of adjustment that we're able to do. We are going through a renewal process right now that Public Works Director Rick Bush is kind of helping get pulled together to get our current equipment lists and all of that sent off to our agents so that we can get renewals on that. And we hope that maybe we could get that renewal back at a lower rate. But at this point, we're probably, maybe Rick, you can chime in, but I think we're not gonna see that final number until later in the month of December. So we're gonna have to take these preliminary numbers and run with them. He agreed. Any questions on insurances? Thank you. All right, well, one of the hard budgets in our community, service-related budgets, is our library. And again, we just ask for some high-level discussion on how we could all pull on the same side of the rope. I did myself some research on the state of South Dakota's library page, and it actually was very enlightening. For libraries our size, it's amazing what our Sturgis Public Library does with the funding that they have compared to other like-sized libraries. They're doing a good job. With that, Chris, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss where we can make even small adjustments to help us get this course correction done, and I appreciate the willingness to come up with some of them. Would you be willing to kind of talk about where we came up maybe with some of these adjustments? I know this preliminary budget that came out did not include some part-time help, and I think through making some of these adjustments, we're getting closer to being able to keep those part-time people that actually play such an important role to our library's operations and programming in play. Can you kind of cover some of that for me, please?
Sure. Yeah, for whatever reason, our two part-time librarians were not included in the original budget that was presented, which I was unaware of until I saw the budget that actually, I guess I saw it after you guys saw it. So what we're trying to do is figure out how we can keep that going, because without those part-time people, we will have to reduce our budget. We'll also have to reduce our programming because that's what they're involved in. They work at the front desk, both of them. One works with programming as well. The other works with book preparation and repair and does a lot of our displays. So these are things that we'll have to take on ourselves, the full-time staff, and that would reduce the hours that we're open would have to be is probably the best way to solve that issue if we're not able to continue with our part-time staff. We've been looking at ways that we can come up with some of the money to fix that. We're talking about $20,000 that is not in the budget that really needs to be there for that help. We have a few ways looking at how we've spent money in the past. We haven't spent our allocation completely for the past couple of years, so we're using that as kind of numbers to go off of and as a way for us to reduce those expenses so that we can add the programming or add the part-time back in. Part of that, though, is also another piece of the puzzle is our summer reading program. That money actually is not part of this budget. That money in the past mainly came from rally charities. So in addition to losing two part-time, we also are losing our summer reading program. Now, what we're trying to do is start fundraising, look for grants, find ways to replace that money. So we're confident that with the help of the citizens and maybe some corporations, we can come up with that money and still offer a summer reading program for our kids and adults, which is incredibly successful. And Sierra does a great job with that, and so we've already been talking about how to fix that. Some of the other stuff that we can look at reducing. We belong to a consortium of libraries in the area, and one of the advantages to being a member of the consortium is that all the members of the consortium donate money, or I guess provide funding for our ebook collection, which is accessed through something called Libby. In the past, we've been giving $3,000 a year to help purchase ebooks. And we can probably cut that by about $1,500 next year as a way to save some money. Some of the other cuts that we are looking at, our book budget was reduced mainly because our book supplier raised prices by about 40% this year, which is pretty substantial. But we do have interlibrary loans, so we can still get books that we don't have or wouldn't be able to purchase. It takes a few days longer to get the book, but we can rely on that a little bit more and actually cut about $2,000 out of our book buying budget. And then also we're talking about reducing the number of periodicals we get. Some of the newspapers that we subscribe to are over $700 a year. We were going to cut one of those to begin with in that initial 10% cut that we did, but we're going to try to make another $500 cut in periodicals. So those cuts altogether equal about $4,000. That's not reflected in the budget that you guys have, but would be a way to show us that we're trying to find money so that we can continue to have our part-time staff. We've also talked about, that's, I guess, a lot of what we talked about. Another part is our utilities bill and whether that's completely accurate or not, and we're looking into that. So that may be some additional savings that we can make.
Yeah, certainly that utilities line item is about $4,800 per year, and from the discussion earlier, where the hard utilities, the electric bill and whatnot, is covered through our buildings budget, that appears to be solely our internet costs there. And so back to trying to do an analysis and an audit on our Blue Peak billing, I would be confident that we can see some savings there, and that's the sort of savings that we like, because we don't have to cut anything to make that happen.
Right.
Yeah. Chris, I appreciate you using your trends and your spending history to help identify some of these pieces. I trust that the input you're providing is that we're going to maintain our status quo in our library and be able to provide all the great services that our community looks for and desires. With the addition, we'll try and work these part-timers in. I would like to say I also appreciate you sharing that worst case plan B, where we're not able to get there. There could be something where, a couple hours a week or something, we make some adjustments there, but we're not talking about that tonight. So, does anybody on council have any questions about what Chris has brought forward in the library budget? How about members of the public? Could you state your name, please,
Yes.
just for...
My name's Sierra Fraser Riggs. I work at the library, and I just have a comment. I just have to say that our hours right now, Monday through Saturday at the library, we service a lot of people. I see a lot of children every day, all day. I'm gonna cry. I spend a lot of time with our families and our elderly people as well. The services that we offer at the library is more than just books. And some people don't understand that, and it's because they've never needed the library like some of our community does. So please take that into consideration before cutting part-time positions, because we need those people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sierra. Anybody else have a comment? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Linda Nelson, and I would also. My name is Linda Nelson, and I also would urge you to leave our library services and personnel as intact as possible. As Sierra said, I think there are a lot of people that don't realize how many families benefit from the programs that they have there. So.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment?
Just say ditto.
Bonnie says ditto. Anybody else want to say ditto? Look at the hands, yeah. Outstanding, thank you. Our library services are exceptionally important to our community, and we want to do everything we can to maintain those, and I appreciate you being reasonable and trying to do what you can on your part, and we're going to try and do what we can on our part to make sure that we keep everything up to speed in our community. So appreciate it all the way.
Well, we
Chris,
appreciate it too.
It's been
Thanks.
a privilege for me to serve on the board and listen to you and the other members, and I appreciate what you've done. And especially, as I said to you after the last meeting, I thought you made that very clear, the point for the library and the people that have turned out for this. Thank you all. That's a great program.
Well, thanks.
I'm a regular user, so it matters to me.
Can I make one comment, Mayor? And please don't kill the messenger, but just for everybody to keep in mind that there are some union contractual obligations when it comes to when we have full-time positions that aren't being staffed versus hiring part-time positions. So again,
But we're not looking to hire part-time. We already have part-time.
those are things though, but
Right.
when we don't staff our full-time positions, there are some union ramifications. Just to make that point clear.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. I think we are going to be addressing that at our next meeting, the union contract being one of the items. But I think that comes down to the type of positions and whatnot, and if we're trying to duck full-time positions in it, duck is not the right word, but eliminate full-time positions and staff with part-time. But I'm confident that we're going to be able to work our way through this.
Oh, thank you.
Bonnie, you got another question?
Thank you. I was avoiding the mic, and my ditto didn't do this group justice. I've used the library in several surrounding communities, and nowhere have I found the level of helpfulness, good humor, just willingness to provide for us. I have a friend who spends a great deal of time at the library. And it's down to things like this knee kills me on the stairs, but I can't get in if I go up the elevator. And all I have to do is call these guys, and they send somebody up to let me in up the elevator side or whatever. And I spent a lot of time at the Spearfish Library, for saying names, but they're just not helpful. They're just not kind. They're just not like this team is. And I think that people in this community take the library very much for granted because it's how it's been for us for quite a while now. And I see children that I know from my neighborhood show up at the library unaccompanied in off-school hours, and these folks just do such a good job of supervising and keeping them in line kindly because they can't run unfettered. And I just think that there's a lot more responsibility and a lot more effort there than is really visible to the common Joe. And so my ditto was too brief.
Yeah. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate those comments, and I think the staff certainly, and the library certainly does, but I'd resonate that I think the same level of service comes from all of our city team. It's amazing what we have here for a community, so thank you, Chris. If there's no other comments, we'll move on to our next piece. Now we get Dave back, do we? Is it, yeah, he's trying to get out of here. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Good evening.
Dave, Legal and Finance, we discussed your budget, planning and permitting. We did not really come up with too much. You made some adjustments in your bottom line, at the original request. Really, I think the only thing that we talked about was maybe changing gasoline and lowering that number, from $9,000 to, if I recall correctly, $3,000.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
Is that still what are we still in line with that, or is that?
Yeah, we've cut our travel extensively. I mean, we've never really spent all that money that was budgeted every year for fuel. We've always been way under. I mean, there's a few things that we've gone over with, but basically, as long as I can remember, I've looked back, my department's budget has always been under what the number was set out in the bottom line. So yeah, there's room to cut that. We cut a lot of the training and travel expenses to help, because there's not, in the planning and permitting budget, there's really not a lot of fluff in there. There's not a lot of things, that we can really cut, but I did the best I could.
Certainly, we appreciate that. I think your comment there, Dave, resonates pretty well. I mean, that if the trend has been showing that you have not been spending your budget, we should try and budget a little tighter, because we're tying our community's monies up, in those budgets, to where if it was in contingency funds, when we see, peaks and valleys and other budgets, we're able to react and, cover those boilers that go out and the street repairs, or even, help fund summer reading and different pieces like that. And so making sure that we keep our budgets tight helps us all. So I appreciate your diligence in that.
Yeah, we watch what we spend. We don't buy anything we don't need. Our vehicles are in great shape, and we maintain them well, so we hopefully keep them for a long time. So I know that the budget that I had sent over proposed was substantially less than what is on here. So I think there was a lot of things that got added back in when this budget was put together. The one now, that's why we're working on it, I imagine. But because I had from 321,000 is what's on here now, I was down to 311,000 with my cuts.
Well, let's talk more about that before we see a first reading.
Yeah,
if you're confident in another $10,000 piece, that helps everywhere.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to send what I sent out.
Can you just kind of
Previously.
cover those?
Well, I can try. Where did I? Basically, in the professional fees, I've cut those back down from 175, which is pretty much just the association costs that would belong to, like the Code Enforcement Association and the Building Officials Association for the state. And then we had also the planning coordinator was part of the planning association for the state. I cut those back because they were at 175, back down to the exact amounts from 175 to 75 to 50 and 55. So there's some savings right there. The overtime, we did pretty good on overtime this year during the rally, during inspections. but so I cut that back. That was budgeted at one time at over $1,000, and we cut it back to $900. And this year during the rally, I don't think we spent. I went back and looked. I think we spent about $500 worth of overtime in the full-time staff. That doesn't include the other staff that we borrow from other departments to help with the inspections of the rally vendors. And then again, it was down to the actual travel and training. I just completely wiped all that out to zero, and that saved $5,000 right there.
Is that sustainable for us?
For a year, it is. Yeah, I mean, there's like I mentioned when we had discussed at one time, I'm the president of the South Dakota Association of Code Enforcement this year, and as well as I'm a board member for the South Dakota Airport Managers Association. Those meetings I'll have to attend. I'll pay for the association myself. I'll drive my own vehicle and do that just to help cut these costs, because those I absolutely have to attend. I've got to go.
Yeah,
But-
well, we need to fund those if they're a mandatory piece for your job. I mean, we can't be leaving you hanging, traveling on your own dime. I mean, you hit a deer on the way, you roll your car, you get hurt. That's a tough deal for us, so we need to make sure that's in. I guess I would, Dave, I think it doesn't break down the overtime wages to rally and non-rally, but we're at $1,600 for the calendar year 2024.
Yeah.
So are you able to still stick with lower numbers than what
Yes.
you've got here?
Yes, we will stick with lower numbers.
Outstanding.
And then also, Joyce will be retiring sometime in 2025. We don't have an exact date. She might make it to January. She might make it to April, May, June, July. We don't know. So there will be some savings there, because I noticed that we're not being able to replace her in that position. And then, as we all know, Brittany, our planning coordinator, left. And that position, I don't know, are we going to be able to fund that for 2025? Do we know?
Well, it's in this budget proposal.
Okay.
Just as, it's certainly a personnel discussion, but Joyce hasn't submitted a resignation, so.
No,
she-
she hasn't, so there's no
If
date.
she's having too many birthdays, I guess that's her own deal, right?
Yeah.
We all have that same deal.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't want to lose her.
For sure.
I mean, she's a great asset, and I know that she's right now spread amongst other departments, assisting and helping. So that does put a little bit of burden on me, but we work through it. I mean, we can absorb that. We always try and make sure between Karina and I that we, if all possible, we have somebody in the office when Joyce is not there to answer anybody that comes to the window and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We hate to close that window down, but there's times we have to. I've got to be out on an inspection. Karina's got to be on an inspection, and Joyce is either working at one of the other positions to help out, or God forbid I get sick. So then we're down.
Actually, I'll point out that Joyce did take on some extra duties in the Public Works office just today.
Yep.
Due to we've got Ann working in the finance office, so we've left behind a gap there, and Joyce, with her 33 years of City of Sturgis government experience, has graciously accepted the challenge of taking on a different position partly.
She's never not been a team player. She's really good. Like I said, I'm gonna miss her. I'm really gonna miss her when she's gone.
Nice. So is there anything else, Dave, that, in your $10,000 difference that, where were you making up those pieces?
Well, we lowered the user fees for CitizenServe too, because we cut back users. We share user logins now. Mm-hmm. So instead of paying a certain $1,800 per user per year, we're sharing logins now. When I log on under my login, and then somebody logs on my login, it'll kick me off. So we're sharing that. So there's a couple savings there. We lowered, I want to say we took away 3 positions on that. So at $1,800 a piece, there was 3 of them that we cut back on.
So you're at 6,300 in this push. Is that at the lowered rate, or are you proposing lower than that?
No, I think that's about where we need to be.
Okay. Actually, we're making quite an adjustment. We must have had some professional services that aren't listed here as part of the 24. We're at $21,800 in that professional services category for planning and permitting for 2024 to the end of October. So you've definitely managed that substantially. Do you see anything else? I guess we didn't quite get to an additional $10,000 that, as you were talking. Is there anything else there that?
I don't remember. I thought I had printed out the right one, and I didn't. So I can definitely send you what I had sent back after we made the cuts. I'll send it out to the council so you guys can look it over. I'll mark down what I had made. So if that'll be I'm sorry I didn't bring it here tonight. Like I said, I printed off the wrong one. So.
Yeah, well, honestly, as looking at your budget, Dave, I mean, most of your budget is the team that it takes to do the job. I mean, there's not a lot of expenses beyond that.
No.
One item that might be adjusted as we see some pieces, I mean, it affects our revenue. It'll just come off the top, but we do have, the credit card fees for our express bill pay, and, not having that there helps our bottom line, I think, so. Mm-hmm. All right, well, any questions of Dave on planning, permitting, and what he's got going forward here? How about from the public? Is there any questions or comments about the proposed budget for planning and permitting for 2025? All right, again, this is just discussion. We'll be coming with our first reading at the first meeting in December. How about we talk about airport while you're up here?
I'm here.
Our discussion at Legal and Finance, Dave, there wasn't a whole lot of things, but we did take a look, not unlike what some of the other department heads have been doing, is reviewing their budgeting trends and, actual budget burn rates, and that we were able to make some adjustments in the supplies and materials, and specifically the fuel for resale. And, that's something that we're easily able to adjust, but we hate to tie those dollars up if we don't know if we can hit those. That was that number, I believe. Well, I know it was 275, and we took it to 165.
Yep.
165,000, and you agreed to that. Is that still in line with?
Yeah, that's still in line. I mean, because basically when we buy the fuel, as we discussed, it goes in the tanks. We sell the fuel. We recoup the money that we paid for the fuel, as well as profit. Right now, as of this morning. And I didn't look. It was a beautiful day, and I didn't look later on in the day. But as of this morning, we're right under 60,000 profit in just fuel sales. So that is nice. And we're sitting on about $34,000 worth of product that the city has paid for that we're still selling right now. I don't anticipate spending any more money this year on or buying any more fuel, but we could have nice weather and it might happen. But I don't anticipate it having to purchase anymore. So, but yeah, that number is still in line for next year.
Okay.
Just knowing that, like we discussed, that if things get crazy and we start selling a lot more and we come up against that number, I'll have to come in and we'll just have to ask and tell you why we need the money to buy more fuel.
That's an easy supplement.
Yep, because we know that we're going to get it back, hopefully.
Good. Any other comments, Dave?
No, again, the airport, other than is basic operations, I didn't look as far as our capital improvements. You know, as I explained, we had gotten that grant from the state of almost $270,000, backed up by a grant that we have as part of our money, so that it would fund the terminal remodel 100% construction-wise. The only thing we have to pay for, or it's going to cost the city, is the $7,500 worth of engineering costs. And I notice that's not in here right now. So,
Is that a, for sure, a 2025 project?
yeah, otherwise we lose that state money.
What, we didn't talk about that the other day. What, do you have an estimated engineering cost on that?
$7,500 for a $400,000 project.
$7,500 spend to get $475,000 worth of.
Worth of work.
And that's not in there right now?
I didn't see it in here.
Mayor, I believe those are in the capital improvement plan budget, the CIP budget.
Oh, yeah, it says it got moved up, so.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The departmental budget should be operational. Any projects would be in the CIP.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, appreciate that. Just a little note, and I know that Councilor Kopp and Councilor Thompson found this out, and it really kind of stunned me too. Over the last 5 years, we've done $2,066,000 worth of projects at a total cost to the taxpayers of $17,000. So we've been very, very lucky. I just want to keep moving forward, so we keep going.
And a side note with that, the use of our airport is phenomenal in the last 5 years, what's been going on out there. So between hangars and actually use too, so.
Yep.
Outstanding. Thank you, Dave. Any other comments from council? How about from the public? All right. Well, let's get Rod up here to finish out recreation.
Thank you.
Good job, David.
Thank you. So with the recreation budget, I didn't decrease much because I really want to cut programs because, you know, the recreation budget, that's all our youth sports, adult sports, swim lessons, stuff like that. And it seems like every year we get more and more kids in our activities, which requires, more cost, So, our referee budget's $10,800, we have like over 700 kids in our youth sports activities. So you need referees for all the games that we do. So we got games at the community center, at the armory, with games at Piedmont. So we have a lot of games. Yes, Jim?
Rod, how many?
We had over 700. We have 740 kids in all the youth sports. And then some of those kids might play the same sports, but 740 kids registered for our youth sports activities through the community center.
Right.
So.
And each sport has a fee that goes along.
Yes, it does. Yep, so a $30 member fee and a $40 non-member fee. So there's a fees incorporated with that. So that helps offset those costs that pays for the refs and stuff like that. So the youth sports is I love the youth sports. It's something we've kind of my baby. Something I go to a lot of those events. I see Ruth there, and I've seen all the Tony there and Jesse there at all the youth sports. It's very community minded. It's community rec, So it's kind of like the library, So it's kind of close to my heart, so it's something we've been doing for quite a few years. I've seen, sorry, going to rant here, but I've seen like kids now that are coaching their kids when I first got here. So I've been here a lot of years, and it's something that's, this pretty cool thing. So
Generational. Yeah.
generational. Yep. So
Yeah, you do a great job with it.
I appreciate that.
And I'll say when I'm down there, it's busy. A lot of people.
Yeah, it brings a lot of people through the doors at the community center for all the practices and the games and stuff like that, plus the armory. It makes our facilities get used a lot. So, yes, yep. Then our swim lesson instructors, we had 236 kids for swim lessons. So we had the $10,000 budget for our swim lessons over the summer. So we had 236 kids sign up for our swim lessons through our swim lesson program. Something, we did add our volleyball program. Actually, I don't know if you see the professional fees. That's something new we did this year. something that we wasn't budgeted this year, but we ran it through and we would be okay. But next year it's something we need to budget for. The volleyball program used to be run through the school. Now it's not run through the school, the youth program, so we were gonna run it now. But we paid the high school kids to refs, and that money goes back into their program for the use for camps and things like that. So that's so. Then also the supplies materials. That's just mainly basketballs and footballs and things like that. T-shirts for all the kids. Each kid gets a T-shirt for all the programs.
Yeah, nice. Well, I like the neighbors helping neighbors approach on that. I mean, we get those young kids in. It helps the high school program. Of course, they mentor the young kids. It's a kind of perpetual motion.
It is. Yep, and they think it's pretty cool, and they see one of the high school girls on the volleyball team coaching. So, or I mean, reffing. So they talk to them. It's good. So yeah. A few things I did cut out of the budget, though. I guess for the recreation budget, we did cut the concessions at the softball fields, football fields. So we did cut concession staff there, and we cut the merchandise for resale so we won't be being supplies for resale for concession stands. But I will like to look for maybe a nonprofit to run the concession stand, maybe fundraising, maybe like a girls softball league or a baseball league or something like that. Maybe they'd be willing to run the concessions. 'Cause it's nice to have concessions out there and you're playing softball or flag football. If kids are hungry, they can grab a candy bar or something like that. So I will pursue a nonprofit, and hopefully we get someone in there to do that. So we talked at Legal and Finance. I think that would be I think everybody's on board with that.
Right. We wouldn't be paying a position to sell sunflower seeds out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a big money maker. It was more in the service than anything. Time you paid staff and their resale and all that stuff. It wasn't real big, big money maker for us, more of a service. But yeah, it would be nice to have it out there. But we wouldn't have just get like a nonprofit out there just to run the concessions. I'll look into that.
I would imagine a vending machine would be subject to vandalism out there.
Yeah, it could be. Yep. But maybe.
So. Yep. All right. Any questions or additional comments for Rod?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How about from the public? Any questions or comments about our recreation budget? Bonnie?
Thank you. I just want to say that the rec program is a lot. It's right in there with our library program. They're both recreational in a sense. And when we've been through tough times and people have stood up in public meetings and said, I just want to know what this city does for me. This is what this city does for you. And when I see the employment things come through and I see a kid pop up as a lifeguard, and I remember when that kid was afraid of the water, we've done a lot for our citizens and for our kids. And I commend you on that, Rod. I'm not as involved in that, but good job.
Thank you. And a lot of our referees are high school kids too. So I think that's good for the kids. They're on the basketball team or on the football team, things like that, the kids like that. So it's good.
Outstanding. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that brings us to our final budget that we'll go over for the night. I thought it was kind of funny. I made a typo and called it originally the Recreation Liquor Store.
I didn't even catch it.
Yeah, well, it's Travis, a good piece. I mean, it's an enterprise fund for the city of Sturgis. Decision was made, I don't remember exact date, but back in the 30s that the city owned their own liquor store, and it's a piece that we use as a means of finance to hold up many of the things that we've been talking about tonight. Goes into our general fund. It's not earmarked for anything specifically, so the proceeds from our liquor store help our library. They help our youth recreation programs. They help our streets department. They help everything. So, Travis, what can we do to help you make $1 million more?
Move about 20,000 more people in town. We did go over last time in the legal and finance meeting about the publishing. We had $36,000 earmarked for that, and I wanted to drop that down to about 20. I don't know, that's still out there. I also see where we have a escrow fund for vehicle replacement for 2025. Actually, I think we can probably get rid of that one too, another 10,000, because the van seems to be trudging right along. And baling wire and duct tape's cheap, so if we have to put it back together, we can use that.
Yeah.
But the 10,000, I think we can go ahead and cut that until 2026.
Travis, can you explain the van, the savings it gives the citizens?
So we bought that in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember exactly what year. But the year before I did, I went through all of our invoices from our suppliers. Between Johnson Brothers, Republic, and Southern, which is our three main ones, those are the only ones that we have to pay delivery fees for if we don't go get it ourselves. The year before, we spent $35,000 just in shipping product into the store. And that has actually gone up because fuel costs go up, they raise their shipping prices up. It was at $4 a case. Now, I think all of them except for Southern are $4.50 a case. And I believe Southern did drop. They went up, but they only went up a quarter. But that'd probably be another $5,000 or $6,000 if we had to have it shipped in. Another thing that would happen is if the van did go down, we do have some other vehicles that we can use to go get it. We've used the rally pickup before a few times. We can't get big loads, but sometimes we have to go back twice. But that's still a lot. I mean, your average load is probably anywhere from $250 to $400 in shipping if we didn't go get it ourselves. So if we have to make 2 trips with a vehicle, we can do that too. Other than that, we did cost from 2024 to 2025, we are down a little bit as far as our wages, because we had Trishelle there, and what she makes, when she left and took over the animal shelter, I took over the majority of her job. So we were able to replace her with an employee that didn't cost us as much. And we have always had 4 full-time employees plus 1 part-time, and we're still right there at 4 full-time and 1 part-time.
Okay. Back to your van. What's the condition of that? Is Rick's fleet team doing any work on that for you?
Yeah, they've had to put in a new drivetrain for us. Other than that, it's actually been a pretty decent vehicle for the age and the miles. I think right now it's running at about 268,000 miles, and it's 2014, if I remember right, 2013 or 2014. So we have had to put some money into it. Obviously, it's a diesel, so your maintenance is a little bit higher costs on it, but that's all figured in there. Our fuel, we don't know what that's going to be. I mean, that's just a shot at what we had last year or 2023 as far as our fuel costs. But hopefully the way things are going right now with fuel prices going down, we could save a little bit of money on that too.
Okay, good. Travis, I'm not seeing where the $10,000 is for the van replacement. What?
If you go down to the bottom, it says gift certificates, donations, then escrow over
Got it.
vehicle replacement.
Thank you.
$10,272.
That escrow goes into the equipment replacement fund.
Does it?
Okay, that's good to know, Rick. Thank you.
I did talk to Ann after I got off the phone with our point of sale team, and we do have to keep that loyalty points, the $88,705 for loyalty points, because that is not figured into your cost of goods or your sales. So that is going to be a separate one. It's in there, so we can keep that. Inventory adjustments at 10,000 is pretty right on. And then our general transfer, our general fund transfer, I haven't really been able to see any hard numbers of what we've been doing. Ann and I discussed it the other day. I think if we were, that 243 is a low number, but if we have a surplus, that's a good thing. I mean, I honestly think we can come up pretty easily with $250,000 profit over the year, and that'd be $20,833 a month that we put in the general fund.
So we're pretty close at 243 then.
I think so, yeah.
You know, the interesting piece that is good, you know, when this report was ran year to date, we were at 313,000 transfer. At the end of October, we were at 347 for this year, 2024.
Always better high than low.
Well, obviously, we've been trying to be accurate all the way through. I mean, and we certainly want to be accurate when it's the other way around. You know, the money coming in. I mean, obviously, we don't want to overshoot, but it looks to me like 250,000 is pretty conservative.
I think it's still low. I think we're in that three. You know, I can't see a scenario where our sales drop that much to where we're still not in that 325 to 330 yearly. We do have a few things that are kind of against us right now, but you know, we're going to go into a different class of products, which could hopefully bring in another revenue stream. I don't know how much it's going to be, but you know, we talked about that in legal and finance. The margins on them are phenomenal. I think it's going to be good for us. But I'm very comfortable with. I would be very comfortable with even 315 as a low number. And right now, if we're doing 313, or would you say 347, we still have November. So that means we're putting about $37,000 a month. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a peak of the rally for sure.
Yeah, there is. And you know, from what I've been gathering from, I'm in contact with a couple of the campground stuff. They're really happy with what they have for numbers so far for the 85th. Super happy with them. So I don't see where that'll go down. 2025 or 2026 might be a different story. But I think this coming year, I think the rally is going to be very strong.
We hope so.
Pappy Hoyle said the last day of the rally last year, they were already halfway booked. So that was pretty good.
Does anybody have any comment from the council or maybe from the public, the audience on this dividend transfer to the general fund? Lance, does this seem like it's in line with what you're seeing for a rally? I mean, I know it's not necessarily in line with what you're doing, but you know, for 2024, after 10 months, we were at just shy of $350,000 worth of transfers. Now, does that pencil out, Travis? That's what you have to share with us.
I think it does. Yes. I mean, you know, I would like to see exactly what we're putting in there, and if we have. I believe at one time we used to have our own account because we bought a cooler about 3 years ago, and when I was talking to the old city manager, I was questioning how we were going to pay for it, and he said we had a fund for that. So I don't know if we still have a liquor store fund that's by itself, that's like the liquor store checking account, or what we have.
I don't. Reserves in the liquor store enterprise fund. So that's one of the items that we'll make notes of, and we'll hope that our CPA, Casey Peterson and Associates, is able to kind of help us get those items balanced properly. Okay. And we'll definitely be revisiting that because, I mean, that's a substantial difference. I mean, if we're able to pull another $65,000 out of that conservatively, that's pretty amazing, and good job, Travis.
Normally November, December is a very strong month. November, first 2 weeks are really sad, and then the next 2 weeks it'll pick up. So we're right in line. If you look at December is usually very close to what June numbers are. November is pretty close to what May numbers are. So if we go back and look at, I've been keeping a KPI for the whole time. If we go back and look at those numbers, they're still good numbers. It's not like we're doing January, February numbers in November, December. So January and February is really rough. Not fun. But if we're still able to put $30,000 a month away in those months and still be in the black. I know that the first few years I was here, I don't think we were ever in the black in January, mostly because of your holiday pay comes out of that first week of January. But we've been awfully close. We've been in the red. I think the lowest was about 2%. So we're close. Mm-hmm. And this year with our savings in labor, we may be able to at least break even on January. So
Nice. Do you want to touch base just maybe for more of an overall point of view for everyone in the room and listening about how, we make the money off of the business, but sales tax also factors into some of our sales that come out of the liquor store there as well, that finds their way not just into the state of South Dakota's coffers, but into the city of Sturgis's.
I believe we're at 1.5%, if I remember right, is what the city gets on that. Yeah. So the state lowered theirs. I still have 7.5% tax in my head, but I know that's not right because I think when the state dropped theirs, I think now we're down to 7.3%, but the city still gets the 1.5% sales tax on everything as well. And then they also get the wine and the beer, wine, and liquor revenue from the convenience stores and the grocery stores on top of that.
5%.
Yes, 5%. So if they're having a strong year, we're having a stronger year too.
Outstanding. Any other questions about our city-owned liquor store enterprise fund? How about from the public? Excellent.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. We're going to continue working through under this same platform next Monday. The Monday after that, we hope to be through all of our budgets at that point. We hope to, if luck be with us and our audit people work diligently, we should have some better revenue understanding and reconciliation by then. At that point, we're going to be trying to develop a final budget and bring it forward to a first reading the first Monday of December. And if anybody's interested in kind of the platform that we're going to try and use to make the presentation on that, maybe look at the community of Brookings and what their budget platform is to get an idea of what I've been working with our communications director on trying to get developed so that we can have a very solid document that gives us a great understanding from all aspects of what we're doing in our community for the year 2025. With that, is there any other questions?
I just have a comment. I just want to tell Legal and Finance Committee, thank you for everything they're doing. I know your meetings are 5 to 6 hours long every Wednesday. Superintendents and staff, thank you guys for everything you're doing. This isn't definitely not easy on anybody's, but we're going to make it work. So again, thank you guys.
Okay, so we do have a need for a short executive session. There is not going to be any action on that. We have a contractual item to discuss briefly. And so with that, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session, and we hold that session in this room again because there will be no action when we come back out.
I'll make that motion.
All right. First by Ruth, second by Nick, to go into executive session. All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no.